Imagine a place so rich, so enchanted, that it seemed as if the very earth was made of gold. Imagine an empire hidden deep within the heart of the jungle, untouched by time and shimmering with unimaginable wealth. This is the tale of El Dorado, the city of gold. But was it real, or was it just a cruel myth that lured countless explorers to their death? Today, we're diving deep into the legend of El Dorado, the lost empire that haunted the dreams of treasure hunters, explorers, and kings. But as we peel back the layers of myth and history, the truth behind El Dorado may be even stranger than you'd expect. Stick with me, because this is a story you won't forget. Our story begins with the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors in South America in the early 1500s. These men came to the New World driven by an insatiable thirst for wealth, power, and conquest, and when they heard whispers of a king covered entirely in gold, they could hardly believe their luck. But here's the question: could such a place really exist? Could an empire be so rich that gold itself was seen as ordinary? According to the legends told by indigenous tribes, there was a ruler, a powerful chieftain known as El Dorado. It was said that during a sacred ritual, he would cover his body with gold dust and then plunge into the sacred Lake Guatavita, offering gold and treasures to the gods. This ritual spread like wildfire, morphing in the minds of the Europeans. The Golden Man soon became a golden city, and then an entire golden empire hidden in the jungle. It was a story so captivating that explorers from Spain, Germany, and England braved deadly jungles and uncharted lands to find it. But as the story grew, so did the desperation. Explorers became convinced that El Dorado was real, and their search took on a darker, more ominous tone. Yet the deeper they went into the jungle, the more elusive El Dorado became. By the mid-1500s, El Dorado had become an obsession. Hundreds of men would join grueling expeditions, each convinced that they would be the ones to find the city of gold. One of the most infamous searches was led by a German nobleman named Philipp von Hutten. In 1541, he marched into the jungles with dreams of glory. What he found instead was an unyielding landscape that seemed to guard its secrets with a vengeance. Imagine risking everything, traveling across oceans, and fighting off disease, all for something that might not even exist. Von Hutten and his men faced torrential rains, venomous animals, hunger, and deadly encounters with indigenous tribes who protected their lands fiercely. The jungle was merciless, and many who entered it would never return. For the few that did survive, they returned with nothing but haunting stories and empty hands. Still, the lure of El Dorado was stronger than fear. When Spanish conquistador Gonzalo Pizarro led his own expedition, the result was just as tragic. Exhaustion, starvation, and violence took hold. In the end, these expeditions became less about finding El Dorado and more about surviving the journey back. But even as death loomed over each expedition, the myth of El Dorado refused to die. And as desperation grew, so did the lengths people would go to in order to uncover its secrets. So what was El Dorado really? Was it simply a story spun by indigenous tribes to mislead the invaders? Or was there a deeper truth beneath the gold dust? Recent archaeological research has shown that the ritual of the Golden Man did indeed exist. The indigenous Muisca people of Colombia worshipped their gods with offerings of gold and jewels. Lake Guatavita was actually a sacred site for these ceremonies. But here's where it gets fascinating. What if El Dorado wasn't a place, but rather a symbol? What if the city of gold was never meant to be found? Some historians believe that El Dorado was not a physical city, but a representation of the Muisca culture's connection to their gods and the natural world. Gold, to them, was a symbol of power, spirituality, and reverence for the divine. Yet, despite these discoveries, the legend of El Dorado endures. It has become less about an empire of gold and more about the timeless allure of mystery, greed, and human ambition. Perhaps El Dorado was never meant to be found, a myth that survives simply to remind us of our own relentless desires. But here's something to think about. What happens when our desire to control nature leads us down a dangerous path? In Dubai, where artificial rain was created to combat drought, The results were far more than expected, and not all of them good. Click here to watch my next video.